What doesn't make sense about life? Doing the same circle as that of you fathers. Your brain making you suffer for things that are not happening at the moment and that which may never happen. But what if she looks at me with a disgusted look and says she would never date me? Eat right, work out, don't do drugs, still die. Bad things happen to good people. And good things happen to bad people. Which way around is more frustrating? I find it disappointing when good things happen to bad people, but sad when bad things happen to good people. So I would have to say the latter. A flaw that I can't understand why we have built into us is how emotionally crippling it is to lose someone that you love. Death breakups. I think it's like an instinctive survival mechanism that teaches you're supposed to fight hard to avoid losing someone else, whether that's family or a spouse or a friend member of the tribe. Sort of like negative reinforcement in a twisted kind of sense. But it has an own side effect of preventing you from falling in love again. Why there's so many more women's clothing options than men's in stores. And why the pockets don't work on women's clothing. It's all a big conspiracy to force women to buy purses. Generally speaking, women care more about fashion than men do. Of course this is a massive generalization. There are plenty of guys that care about being fashionable and we should, but a lot of dudes are happy just wearing jeans and a decent shirt. I believe a lot more women like to change things out depending on the season and such. You are generally correct. Jeans and a band t-shirt every day, and a suit for work days. Makes perfect sense. Most guys really aren't that all into clothes. Having a passion for something, but choosing a different career path in life, because sometimes what you're passionate about won't pay the bills, or won't pay enough for you to be able to treat yourself to nice things, vacations, etc. For instance, loving art, but going to school for something else, because making money doing art is difficult. I used to be an art major, but recently changed majors to business administration management. I feel like the problem lies in the fact that you can call anything art these days. People that aren't art majors don't necessarily see how much work or thought goes into a piece of art and just shrug it off. It's unfortunate, but what can ya do? Hobbies are easier when you have money to fund them. That people don't actively try to make the lives of those around them better. That, as fetuses, we gestate in liquid then can drown as soon as we are born. We have constant oxygen supply through the umbilical cord, so there is no need to breathe until we are born. Short version, it's safer and warmer. The worship of work. The people who make their job their entire identity and cannot shut off the corporate speak, even when they're at home or supposed to be out enjoying themselves. I agree it's fascinating, but to play devil's advocate, can you imagine if no one had to work? What would this world look like? What would you do every day? Probably gardening, since I probably wouldn't trust the robot farms. Art, gardening, learning, entertaining and being entertained, all while bots do our jobs safely. I'd fix my house. Nobody else would do it. Basically, without working the job we'd be working for ourselves. That if we all just got along, we could save the world, traveled the solar system, cured cancer, but things just be like this. Children die at the hands of abusers and killers. Why good people come and go. I just wanted to grow together with her. That I'm alive, but not really living. It's a shame she won't live, but then again, who does? Why do we have hair on our heads, and then go bald so quickly? Why the deep sea ocean even exists? It's gotta speak miles when we are more comfortable in space than the depths of our own oceans. And the interaction that ecosystem has with the rest of the world is also questionable at best. It's like their only job is to eat stuff that dies in the ocean, but anything that tries to go down there gets crushed from the amount of pressure down there, and anything that comes up literally explodes because their internal pressure pushes against the pressure of the deep ocean. It feels like it literally just exists to fill up that fun fact portion in all our brains. The ocean really is mysterious. I'm more curious of it than I'm about space. The need to laugh when you're at the funeral. So many people are guilty of this, but why it happens, IDK. I'm sure there's an explanation for this. How do we want to lick other people's peeing organs? Using our general interests to define our identity. I love Godzilla, but I won't hang a poster, buy toys and figurines, and every single piece of merchandise in regards Godzilla. Why do people feel that compulsion to make a brand pop culture figure their entire identity? Spends hundreds if not thousands of dollars designed by a board of people to drum up sales. If you know why, you probably don't know how. If you know how, you probably don't know why. If you know both, you are viewed as wrong or insane. People don't like the truth yet they seek it endlessly, while actively distracting themselves from it, especially if it's obvious that we lose our first set of teeth so young. It would be much better if this happened when we were 30 or 40. Why I'm in this body? I probably wouldn't choose me. I was depressed, and my comment was not reflective of the real world as I experience it. The people who use their turn signals as they make the turn instead of before, as if that's how they were intended to be used. That I'm still single and everyone around me has a so. None of them met online. Why do people still date my ex, even though her house is infested with black mold, and she gave my infant brother mold poisoning, even though I tell the guys who are guilt-tripped into dating her, that she literally is a walking corpse? Why doesn't it have a customize your character screen? Why the shower curtain blows inward during a shower? You look like you put ice cubes in milk. That evil continues to be successful. It's 2019 and people still believe vaccines cause autism. That has nothing to do with time. It's a result of cognitive biases built into our brains. Life itself is a series of getting answers for questions that lead to more questions. I don't know if this counts, but something that makes absolute zero sense to me is when people ghost you without giving any explanation why, and you don't understand what happened. Are they dead? All of it. Everything we use to measure it is made up and nothing you do will ever equate to anything in the grand scale of the universe. Like, oh yeah, welcome to existence. Everything is confusing. The universe is actively hostile. You don't even know what the conditions for your own happiness are. BTW, your sentience is based off of standing on a massive living spaceship. Wrap your head around that one. Getting confused about all this is entirely natural. All we have is each other, and no one knows truly what they are doing. All we can do is make our own meaning. How the universe just got here, why we are here. How come suicidal person is a criminal and not a victim? I mean, they were just about to die. We men and women, as a species, are wretched things. Does it come with intelligence? That we don't want to die but it's inevitable, and that we want an eternal life, but we don't want to live forever, or we want oblivion, but want to be alive. Life, live, probably reproduce, die. Sociopathic, psychopathic people, I just wish I understood their minds. The only way to get a good job is to have a relative in position of power. You get a good job by having a good reputation. How everyone dies but no one knows exactly what happens after death yet. Because the people who experience death are too dead to tell us that anything exists in the first place. Look at your face. Now say I love you. If you have a reaction that elicits emotions, then why? If nothing happened in you, why? And if we don't find alive, how would this experience work with you? Science, like why is it that way? Why not any other way? Like why does gravity exist? Why do atoms exist? Why not anything else? Working to be able to survive, to keep working. Seriously, you don't have to do that. Just learn something that makes you work less and earn better. Today the opportunities are endless. It's not 20 to 30 years ago when people made money with working hard. Forget about working hard. You wanna work hard or earn well, because it has nothing to do with each other. How someone with 2 degrees cannot make even half the wage of a trades person. It's the world upside down. That cats and dogs have such short lifespans. I've never had a better friend than my German Shepherd, but she's going to die within 5 years. No sense to that. Death. We build up this all just to die and vanish away. We won't exist. We won't remember. If death is the last step, then why be born? Existential crisis and fear on eventual death keeps me awake at night. The fact that our bodies feel their best when we are too young to appreciate it. What doesn't make sense is that a middle-aged man can get mentally, physically, and sexually abused at work and their abuser gets a smack on the hand. Not fired like I would. In fact, I asked ours what would happen if I as a man did to her what she did to me. You would terminate it. This was a supervisor over me for over 10 years. Makes no sense in this day and age. Consciousness. How does it work? Needless hunger. There's plenty for all. The barriers that cause it are almost never directly related to the person who needs help. Needing a car to get a job, but needing a job to get a car. How in a sense none of us are going to exist, so nothing really matters in a way. If life is to be lived, then why is depression? That humans are the only species on Earth that can do the things we do. Why don't any other species' brains allow them to think like we do? And what could possibly happen if other species had similar powers? This all just can't come by chance. There has to be something up. Marriage to make a lifelong commitment to one other person, especially at a young age, and expect that one relationship to last till death. That doctor's visits are so expensive. Everything is expensive. How we are living in a global food surplus right now, yet there are still people who cannot afford to eat. Unconditional love requires conditions. The fact that I'm still living, after trying to die so many times. When people wear flip-flops to places that isn't the beach. The fact that there's little to no correlation between intelligence and industriousness. Interesting how some people are born with genius intellect, but are very lazy and vice versa. 5 years of learning to use a toilet and put on clothes, followed by 15 years of school, followed by decades on the job to become an expert, and then die and take all of that knowledge with you. Why people have to work 40+ weeks? Like, I literally don't understand it. I just graduated college and am about to go into the work field, and the thought of working 5 days a week for 40 hours is mind-numbing, especially the thought of doing the same thing every day. I think if society would put work schedules down to 4 days a week, it would create a much more happy life for most people. Only working 4 days is a much better balance, opposed from working 5 days and getting two off. I also think only working 4 days would help business and the economy, but that's a different rant.